Good evening. We'll call to order the regular meeting of the Apache Junction City Council. Our invocation will be offered by Councilmember Sippel and the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilmember Dietz.
Dear Heavenly Father, we praise you and we give you thanks. We ask you to bless us and guide us in the decision making so it will better our community to the best of our community's ability. We ask that you be with all the soldiers serving our nation, serving our country nationwide, and we ask you to be with their families. We send a special blessing to the families of all missing children, and especially to those whose children were found earlier this week. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call. Present.
Here.
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 Present.
Councilmember Waldron?
Here.
All members present, Your Honor.
Thank you. I'll call for a motion on the consent agenda.
Your Honor,
Vice Mayor.
I move that the consent agenda be accepted as presented, and the resolution number 07-05, a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Apache Junction, Arizona, approving final subdivision plat plan for the Guerra Morado subdivision in case PZ-01-06 by Wayne Barker be approved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Councilmember Dietz?
Yes.
Councilmember Insulato?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eck?
Yes.
Councilmember Severs?
Yes.
Councilmember Sippel?
Yes.
Councilmember Waldron?
Yes.
Mayor Coleman?
Yes.
Unanimous, Your Honor.
Thank you. We'll move on down the agenda to call to the public. This is the time set aside at each of our council meetings for the public to address the council. If you wish to speak, you must fill out a request to speak form. You may fill one out now and hand it to the city clerk, who is over on my right. When called upon to speak, please come forward to the microphone podium and state your name and address for the record. If there is a group speaking on the same subject, please choose a spokesperson. The council welcomes all of your comments and suggestions. Arizona open meeting law allows individuals to address council on any issue within the jurisdiction of the council. Council may not answer your questions or discuss your comments at this time. However, at the conclusion of call to the public, council may do any of the following: respond to criticism made by any individual who addresses council, ask staff to review the matter, or ask staff to place the matter on a future agenda. Council shall not discuss or take legal action on matters raised at call to the public unless the matters have been properly noticed for discussion and legal action. Due to time restraints of the meeting, there is a 3-minute time limit per speaker. I received quite a few requests to speak notices, and we'll start with Noel Benoit.
Noel Benoit, 900 North San Marcos, Apache Junction, Arizona. And a few others are going to address some of what I'm going to just brush across because they'll address it more thoroughly. I have spoken with business people who want to see some downtown business going forward. They'll address that and some of the problems there. There are some horse property owners who have boarding stables that were legal. Some of them were GR when they started. And they're receiving harassment from zoning enforcement. Some private property people are receiving harassment from zoning enforcement. Many years ago, when some people thought I might go along with the whole program, I was informed that horse properties, mobile homeowners, and older dwellings have a target, because older dwellings and mobile home dwellers are not the caliber of people Apache Junction wants. And the horse properties can produce land for apartment dwellings and things like that. Back then, I took my investigation to Janet Napolitano, Attorney General at the time. She said she would be happy to prosecute, and I took it to the FBI. They investigated. We got a new city manager. Some people were allowed to retire and go elsewhere, et cetera, instead of being prosecuted because it saved costs of prosecution. The city is getting dangerously close to a recurrence of that. And I've got a few things I want to inform the city of here tonight. One of which is, does this go on or come up there? Oh, there we go. One of which is racketeering. Might have to give me a little extra time here. One of which is racketeering, and one of the prosecutable offenses is intimidation. Collusion. One person told me at one of the zoning meetings that she couldn't send a email to another worker, work-related. That's not collusion. Fixing a vote or getting somebody to reverse their vote for purposes of helping friends is collusion, because the definition in Black's Law Dictionary is still conspiracy, and case law still supports conspiracy. You can get 2 or 3 together and talk about work or research that you're doing and work on something, and that's not collusion. But there are some, and I gave zoning case law, which basically says that zoning laws and police powers will not be used to prohibit any reasonable use of property. Now, I got 7, can you re-click that?
No, but can you summarize just real quick?
Okay, well, I got 7 laws in Phoenix declared unconstitutional and void. You've got a bunch of them that are unconstitutional and void here, where prosecution has been threatened, and if they're overturned as unconstitutional and void, you've got a bunch of laws and lawlessness because they technically don't exist. The courts declare them void ab initio, which means from the beginning, as though they didn't exist. So there's a lot of stuff in the future that you really need to get on the agenda and work on and get all of the departments and laws in order.
Thank you. Louis Babin?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and staff. My name is Louis Babbitt. I live at 2191 South Bel Air Road in Apache Junction, and I am running for Apache Junction City Council. I mentioned a few meetings back about what I found out was traffic control signals instead of streetlights, traffic control signal issue that I brought up concerning a traffic control signal at Superstition Boulevard and Highway 88 over here. And I come to find out later that there's a relatively complex criteria for determining where a traffic control signal goes, and there's a relatively high cost to a traffic control signal. So a few days ago, I'm riding my motorcycle from eastbound, westbound. I take the first exit, Apache Junction, on the north side of the freeway, to that exits onto where Old West Highway comes around to the freeway, and there it is. A flashing stop sign, a flashing red light stop sign. And I said, that's exactly what we need to have over at Superstition Boulevard and Highway 88, facing west, facing east. It's a lot less expensive than traffic control signal, and I believe that it will greatly enhance the safety of that intersection. And when a traffic control signal is put in later, those can be recycled and put somewhere else, reused, at another relatively dangerous intersection. I think it would be real important to get something like that, facing east and west, Superstition, flashing red lights, get people's attention, and make them slow down and be more cautious at that intersection, so there won't be as many near fatality or fatality accidents there. So that's my suggestion, and I think that should be done. And if anybody needs to know what that flashing red light, LED red light, hole-mounted stop sign looks like, they just need to take the exit, first exit heading westbound here in Apache Junction, the Old West Highway exit, and they'll see it right there as they come around to that corner where they need to stop. Thank you.
Thank you. Charles Bunton?
Good evening, Mayor and Councilman. My name is Charlie Bunton. I live at 1028 North Star Road, Apache Junction.
That's the first time I've been in here. It's a beautiful facility, by the way. I've been a Federal Aviation Safety Inspector for over 19 years. One of the attributes you developed as a safety inspector is an awareness to detect and identify potential causes for nonconformity within a process. You learn if it's suspect, it requires additional research and investigation. I took the time to review the audio and video minutes on the web of the council meeting held on December 5th, 2006. That had to do with your ordinance 1283, case PZ-13-06, which is a rezoning. During our review of that December 5th meeting, I was surprised to note that there were so few requests for in-depth information prior to the vote. I then reviewed the video minutes of the special reconsideration meeting that was held on December 29th. I was astounded to see how many valid quality questions council members raised during the consideration of this ordinance. I guess if I had a question, it would be, what generated all the valid questions and challenges by the council during the special reconsideration meeting on December 29th, and should the same questions and challenges have been raised prior to the acceptance of the ordinance during its initial presentation on December 5th, 2006. I think when we elect an official as our representative, we expect him or her to vote on any subject with honesty, integrity, accuracy, and objectivity, and their decisions that are made on our behalf be based on judicious considerations. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Dan Wald?
Dan Wald, 60 North Bennett Drive, Information Junction. I apologize for that having related to the town meetings, but I'm taking care of some of our younger up-and-coming leaders. They're called students. As a full-time father, I've been listening from a science teacher. What I want to talk to you tonight has to do with our traffic control. Not only was I allowed to talk to part of it tonight, but I want to bring it down a little bit further. First of all, I'd like to congratulate the council and the city for finally letting the stoplight and traffic control signals on San Marcos and Broadway. 2 years after I requested that. I'm still waiting for the traffic lights and traffic control signals at San Marcos and Summit. I want to commend the city for putting in the particular notice of how fast we are running, the signs that tell you how fast you run up and down Island in front of the high school. And realize, as the council and resident and municipal property, that the city consider urgently and urgently putting in speed bumps around all of our schools. I've traveled through Charlotte and other cities in the East Valley that have done that. And I'm going to tell you, if you drive one of those speed bumps at 20 miles an hour, you better start down and get your car realigned. Because it does not work very well after you do that. And also, a lot of people go through some of those 15-mile-an-hour speed zones at 30, 35 miles an hour. I hope we don't have enough people there on our task force to monitor that daily. But I would probably tell you, if you put in speed bumps, you're not going to need them. And I want to commend our police department for what they have done to date. And I am as well running for city council. Thank you.
Thank you. Paula Cochran?
Paula Cochran, 2232 South Sorrel in Mesa, Arizona. I'm reading, Mayor and council members, a letter from Hal Cochran, who is the owner of the Tomahawk and US 60 property. The zoning for the new hotel at Tomahawk and US 60 was approved on December 5th, 2005. This zoning approval was in accordance with the pre-annexation and economic development agreement that we signed, and it was initiated by Mayor Coleman for the purpose of getting our property into the city. To our surprise, and against everything the mayor agreed to, the city council abruptly called another meeting. Misunderstandings about the sign was the official reason for the meeting, but the meeting was actually called to reverse the zoning. Prior to this special meeting, we met with Mayor Coleman at his office, and at this meeting, he actually said that he had called Richard Dietz to ask him if he would change his vote and reverse the zoning with a special meeting. Then Mayor Coleman called and told us in this meeting that it was a political move. The Apache Junction Chamber of Commerce provided lots of data that stated that the city of Apache Junction turns away several hundred people each year because in the entire city there are only 100 hotel rooms. This data also indicates that 3 to 5 visitors per week request extended stay hotels. How then does the mayor's brand of politics serve the city of Apache Junction and the citizens? These are the people who entrusted the mayor with their vote to make decisions in their best interest. Rumors about new developers investigating this property since the zoning reversal is untrue. We received one call from a real estate agent about a family entertainment park and one from a company selling franchises for another extended stay hotel. Mayor Coleman and city council members would do well to call another meeting, approve the zoning, avoid further scrutiny and suspicion, and put the best interest of the city of Apache Junction over personal agendas. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Burden.
That's a tough one to follow. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is Dave Burden. I live at 4699 South Striker Ridge in Gold Canyon. I'm here this evening to introduce the business and property owners group of our network of Apache Junction. They've accompanied me tonight, and I drew the short straw, so I'll be doing the talking. If you folks would kindly identify yourselves. The Business and Property Owners Group in Apache Junction is a group of business and property owners, and we have a mission statement. The mission of this group is of business owners and property owners and interested individuals is to create an open and free dialogue regarding issues of importance to the community of Apache Junction. And we're here tonight. I should tell you a little bit about the group. We've done kind of a straw poll in the group. It represents about $180,000 or $180 million worth of investment in Apache Junction. Excuse me, fighting a cold. And approximately 250 jobs in Apache Junction. We're people that want to help you do the right thing and support you when you make good decisions. And we're here tonight to show you our support in moving ahead with the downtown development agreement. It is very important. It's vital to the life of the downtown Apache Junction to stop development on the freeway, which is going to happen and will be positive, but to stop it from basically sucking the life out of downtown Apache Junction. And a vital downtown is very important to a healthy city, and we commend your efforts to try to get this business development agreement done. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Walt.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Honorable Council members, City staff. It is my pleasure to bring to the forum and introduce to you our first new captain who will be assigned to our Division of Criminal Investigation. As words of introduction, Mr. Tom Kelly comes to us from Lakeville, Minnesota. He holds a bachelor's degree in social justice from Lewis University in Illinois. He is a 22-year veteran of the DEA, his last position being special agent in charge of the Minneapolis-St. Paul District Office. This position gave him complete oversight and authority of all federal drug enforcement investigations in the state of Minnesota and North Dakota, to include strategic investigations concerning the U.S. and Canadian borders. His special assignments included providing security for President Gerald Ford and Dr. Henry Kissinger. He is a certified instructor at the University of Illinois Division of Criminal Investigation, Traffic Institute of Northwestern University. A few of his special skills include financial investigations, electronic surveillance, intelligence analysis, diplomatic liaison, fiscal responsibility that included administrating a multi-million-dollar budget. Mr. Kelly has directed multi-agency task force consisting of over 100 officials from various law enforcement and community agencies that involved maintaining operational interface with representatives across the globe, including Japan, Australia, Guam, and the United States. Mr. Kelly is married, has 2 daughters. One is attending college, and the other is in the workforce in the city of Chicago, who was a former member and an intelligence analyst for the United States Navy. His parents have been residents of Gold Canyon now for 16 years, and in tonight's audience we have his parents as well as his aunt and uncle. So at this time I'd like Mr. Kelly if you just say a few words and respond to any questions.
Thank you, Chief. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members. I just come here to basically afford you the opportunity to give me a chance to see what I can do with the city of Apache Junction. I come with a total of about 34 years of law enforcement experience, and I can dedicate to you that I'll do the best job I can. I have a vested interest in the area down here, being that my parents have been here long-time residents, and I plan on doing the best I can. So with that, if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy. I think with the Chief, his short dissertation on my background, what else can I say? So thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you. Deborah McDonald.
Mr. Mayor and Council, my name is Deborah McDonald, and I live at 646 West 17th Avenue here in Apache Junction. I am here to talk about the issue of Shoppers Paradise. I am here on behalf of the citizens of Apache Junction in the area who are involved with Mel White and Shoppers Paradise. We are here to let the council know that the vendors of Shopper Paradise have not received their refunds. They have not been paid back for the money that they have given to Mel White for a place in Shoppers Paradise. We are here before the council tonight to ask for some help from the city of Apache Junction. There has been charges filed at the police station of Apache Junction against Mel White. There are some vendors who have not been allowed to file charges because they are misdemeanors. They are under the amount allowed by law for a felony. But we are here tonight to ask that if it is possible that the council ask the attorney's office and the district attorney's office if they can do an investigation into this matter. You are talking about 180 vendors between $100 and $300 per space. That is a lot of money. We have all put out advertisements for Shoppers Paradise for help. We have lost money waiting for Shoppers Paradise to open. This man has taken money from people who believed in him, who believed in what he said that he was going to do. He had no lease on that building. He did not own that building. I myself spoke to the California leasing company. When he signed my contract, he had no lease agreement with them. How can you accept money from retailers when you have no lease, when you don't even own a building? How can you not be made to pay this money back? We would like some help from the council, if at all possible, and maybe getting the AJ Police Department to give us a helping hand. Thank you.
Thank you. Chip Wilson.
I'm Chip Wilson, 128 South Star, here in Apache Junction. I'm here to talk about the upcoming Black Stallion Literacy. And like last year, we're going to be doing the first touch at the Desert Vista School on February 24th between 8:30 and approximately 11 o'clock. We welcome any council member or city representative to come out. The second occasion, we're going to do the second touch, is going to be February 15th from 8:30 until about 1:30 in the afternoon. Now, what we've done is we've gone together with the Apache Junction Parks and Rec and are putting on this activity. It's going to allow us to cover the Eastern Valley for schools from Queen Creek, some chartered schools from Gilbert and Mesa, as well as the Desert Vista School. There's going to be a grand total of about 500 kids come through the facilities, and it's the rodeo grounds. And this is where the children get the chance to take this book written by Walter Varley, which is Theirs to Keep, and read their favorite part of the book to a horse. They also get to learn a little bit about the horse activity. They'll have a feed place for feed, for tack and shoeing, and they'll have a reading station where the kids can get to sit and read to the horses. We recommend, or would like to have you all come out if possible and see the activity, and as we do this in there. It's an exciting event for the children, and it's real exciting for the people or the adults that are involved, because you see the enthusiasm these children have for reading. And of course, the overall goal of this is to use the horse to read. Second thing I want to discuss, and I'm going to run out of time here, is the notices that have been sent out to the city, or from the city, excuse me, to the stable owners. Wes Dykeman is unable to attend tonight. He is in the hospital having his first treatment for radiation therapy for his cancer. We recommend that, we'll skip all the way down, that since the city has no definitions for what it calls for as far as the stabling facilities, whether it's a business license or an operation, that the city stop the actions and put together a task force of stable owners. You can get all the stable owners involved in the city, and city council and city staff to sit down and actually come up with a good definition to resolve this issue. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Chip. Melinda Larson.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. I was asked by Melinda Larson, 300 East Superstition Boulevard. I was asked by Valley of the Sun, Habitat for Humanity, to present these shirts to all of council members and mayor for all your support and help during the recent Builders Blitz and your support in bringing Habitat to the city of Apache Junction. Mr. Mayor, would you like to just come down and receive these?
Sure. Thank you. I had to grab this one because I think it's the only double extra fat we have.
No, come on, I need a double fat.
And Robin Barker.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Robin Barker. I live at 860 South Saguaro here in Apache Junction. And I come here tonight as a representative of the Apache Junction News. As many of you are aware, for the past 10 years, the Apache Junction News has sponsored a Citizen of the Year award for service to our community. It's presented to an individual who has endeavored to help make Apache Junction a better place to live, to work, and to play. This year's selection has spent most of his adult life living, working, and playing in Apache Junction. He has mentored our children and has been a long-time leader in our community. Under his leadership, Apache Junction has become known as a positive force to be reckoned with in the state. It is my pleasure to present the 2006 Apache Junction News Citizen of the Year Award to Mayor Doug Coleman.
Kind of beefy,
Ed, is this the girly thing that you called Roxanne about?
I made that up right off the top of my head. Do you believe me?
I had no idea. I was going to say I can answer most girly questions having 6 daughters and a wife, but it's going to leave that for... Thank you. That's very nice. That's the last of the request to speak forms that I have. I would like to respond to just a couple of things. One is the pre-annexation agreement that was initiated by Mayor Coleman. Mayor Coleman doesn't initiate pre-annexation agreements, nor can I approve them by myself. Those are council actions. The mayor does sign it as the representative of the council. I did, in fact, call Councilmember Dietz to ask him not to change his vote. What I asked him, what I said, and I left a phone message, was I asked him if he felt comfortable with his vote and if he would like to reconsider. The reason I asked him that was after the initial meeting where it was a 4-3 vote in favor of the rezoning, I had several citizens approach me and ask me if there was anything that they could do. And there actually are 2 options. One is they could start a referral process and place the rezoning on the ballot. The other is if a member of the majority is to ask for it to be reconsidered, then it can be reconsidered. Mr. Dietz had voted with the majority at the first meeting, and that's why I called Rick and asked him if he felt like he could do that. My understanding, and Councilmember Dietz, you can correct me if this is not right, when I made that call, you had already asked for it to be reconsidered on your own without me calling.
I had talked to George probably an hour before I even received your call.
Yeah, which I did not know. Anyway, also, we are working very hard to try to get a downtown agreement together. The developers have certain risks that they're willing to accept. They have certain parameters that they would like to work from. The city also has certain parameters that we would like to work from, and I don't believe this council would be wise in just writing a blank check and not protecting the city's interests. We could have a development agreement. We could have had one a year ago if they had agreed to everything that the city wanted. We're working diligently. I don't want you to think that we've called it off, that we've put a hold on it, that we're trying very hard to get this in place. We understand the concern of the property owners and the desire, I think, of the entire community to see this area redeveloped. And in fact, that is why we pushed and created the redevelopment district in the downtown area, was to see that. I initially contacted, who turned out to be a part of this team, Mr. Steve Nielsen, and Dave Fackler to see if they would be interested in serving as consultants for the city in redeveloping the downtown project. They were planners at the city of Tempe when Mill Avenue was, over the 20 years that Mill Avenue was being developed. And after they came in and saw what we had in place, the redevelopment district and those tools, they became very interested in working on the development side. And they actually told us that they wouldn't be able to serve as our consultants because they were interested in forming a partnership and creating and working on the development side of things. We have had some frustrations. I'm absolutely positive that they're frustrated on their side, and it's been frustrating on our side. We would hope that you would be patient with us as we try to protect the interests and the responsibility that goes along with the decision that we will make in putting together a development agreement for that area. And thirdly, maybe I could just ask the city attorney, is there something that we could do to help those that were involved with Shoppers Paradise?
Well, Mr. Mayor, unfortunately, this is not the time to discuss that issue.
Okay.
That would have to be a discussion item if you wanted to. I've listened to the comments, and I'll look into the matter. I'll consult with the police chief to see where there's any investigation ongoing, and he and I will talk about that.
Okay.
And I will also consult with the county attorney's office.
Okay. I did see the article in the paper, and would like to see whatever can be done in that direction. Are there any other comments or requests to put things on a future agenda? Like I said, yes.
As far as the signal light on Superstition in 88, 88 is a state highway. We have no control over that intersection. It's not up to the city to put a light there. We can't. That's a state highway. That's it.
Last one.
Dare I ask Doug Dobson, is that not on one of our lists, though, for the future, State 88 and Superstition?
Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, we're getting kind of beyond the open meeting.
Beyond what?
We have to, if we're going to have an item session on this, we should probably do that for 3 weeks from now.
We need to stop asking so many questions.
I believe that intersection is eventually on a list of priorities that we put for the future, and it's there to have. It's got many problems because it's like at a 33-degree angle. It's got to be straightened out before a stop light can even be put on. Mr. Bunton, I believe, 1680 North Star, asked about some questions. I believe it is referring to the development of Tomahawk, and said that it seemed like there was a lot more discussion on the 29th meeting, I think, according to this. I think a lot of that has to do with just more communication, because the county island that's surrounded around that property, only citizens who live within 300 feet are actually physically notified of what's going on here. So either they see a sign, or they get something in the newspaper, or word of mouth by then is what got around. So I think that we just got a lot more information by the time we had our latest meeting. The school zone issues, we have talked about those, and this year, Councilmember Sippel brought up the fact of bringing up speed control in school zones, which we have placed in, I don't know, and I probably can't ask the chief how many school zones, but several of them. So we have several control lights in our zones now. We do have a policy that has never been used, and that's a speed hump, not a speed bump, which is a gradual thing, but we thought we would try the light system first. We've looked at photo radar, though, also, if we thought that would fail. We cannot call the Tomahawk meeting up, to my knowledge, can we, Joel? Once you call a meeting up the second time and get a vote, you're done. You can't call a third meeting on an item, can you?
I think we're getting into a legal issue that I'd rather not discuss in public.
On the Chip Wilson, on the stable owners, in my discussion with the city manager today, basically what was left, Chip, was there'd be no action taking place with the stable owners until there was an adequate process looked at and overlooked. If that's the way I understood our discussion, George, on the.
I won't respond to the question
You can't respond to it, but we are going to look at it.
The next agenda item is the city manager's report. And I
That
would
boy.
anticipate he didn't say something.
And I think I hit most all of them.
Okay. We'll move on then to the city manager's report.
Mayor Coleman, 3 quick items. First, congratulations. That's a wonderful honor and distinction from the AJ News. Second, the matter articulated by Mr. Benoit and Mr. Wilson has come to my attention, and we will be addressing it. And third, just wanted to affirm that, in fact, although 88 is a state highway, the city did initiate a traffic study. We are working that with the intent of forwarding the data to the State Department with the understanding that, again, it is, as was said, their highway. That concludes my report, Your Honor.
Thank you. And Councilman Sippel pointed out to me that I did skip over announcement of current events. Do we have any to announce?
Your Honor?
Councilman?
Although not current, it was actually on January 10th. I attended the governor's State of the State message to Pinell County, and the reason I bring that up is there was actually 2 important points that in her State of the State message. One of those, for anybody involved in education, I think once they saw her budget that was released last Friday, has got to be pretty happy because it's a very strong emphasis of hers. But the other important thing, she has directed the Department of State Lands for not to move to market any land that was identified in Proposition 106 as conservation land, that they are not to move that to market until they check with the nearest local jurisdiction. And it's her effort, and it's unfortunate that that proposition was defeated because it was state land reform issues involved with that. And this is her way of protecting that 700,000 acres or whatever it was across the state, and a large chunk of it which is out here by Gold Canyon. So I thought that was a very important point in her speech.
Thank you. Anything else?
I did look at the building blitz. I think Waldron and Johnny and Sulaco was there. I stood over at my house because there was too many people about a half mile away. But it's incredible when all those volunteers come in and put those houses together for those people. It's really quite a sight to see, and I think it's a very wonderful thing for our community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Builders Blitz actually, there was a kickoff Monday morning about 7:30, and I think it was 700 below zero that morning. We were freezing. They built 3 houses in 1 week, and Blanford Homes built 1 house in 26 hours. They were that well organized, and then the dedication of those 3 houses was Saturday, this last Saturday. Again, in a very cold day. Habitat has a habit of picking cold days. But it was a very good ceremony. The dedication ceremony and the process they go through and the little symbolisms that they have for these folks that are getting homes. And if you can meet these homeowners, they are the happiest people in the world. They have now come to Apache Junction as homeowners, and Habitat has not had one foreclosure on any of their properties. So we have a very, very good subdivision and a very good group of new citizens.
While Dave and I were sucking up coffee, the walls and the roof were up in about an hour and 15 minutes.
Took them 4 months to build my house.
26 hours.
It's because they were over there sipping coffee.
Yeah, they were sipping coffee.
Okay, we'll move on to the public hearings. Item number 5, application for interim permit, new license corporation, Series 10 liquor license for Chevron Food Mart. And Kathy, can I ask you to lead us into this one?
This is the interim permit for the Chevron located on South Oakville It's finding out because of change in management. As is our policy, notices were sent to planning, fire district, and the police department, all of which responded positively for this liquor license. The applicant has been notified of tonight's public hearing in the event you should have any questions, but the overall recommendation is for approval.
Okay, thank you. Would the applicant or their spokesperson like to come forward and address the council?
Good evening, everybody. It's 3265 South Goldfield Road, and my name is Paramjit Singh Nagra. I am his owner in there.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant from members of the council? Thank you. We do appreciate you being here in case there are any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody.
This is a public hearing, and I'll open it up to the public at this time. Is there anyone who would like to address the city council on item number 5 on the agenda, the liquor license for the Chevron Food Mart? Hearing and seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Any discussion from the council? Call for a motion.
Your Honor.
Councilmember Severs.
I move that the application for an interim permanent new license corporation, Series 10 liquor license for Chevron Food Mart, submitted by Paramjit Nagra, be recommended for approval to the Arizona Department of Liquor License and Control. Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Councilmember Insulato?
Yes.
Councilmember Deeds?
Yes.
Councilmember Severs?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eck?
Yes.
Councilmember Waldron?
Yes.
Councilmember Sippel?
Yes.
Mayor Coleman?
Yes.
Unanimous, Your Honor.
Thank you. Item number 6, application for a special event liquor license by Superstition Mountain Rotary Club, 1246, for Lost Dutchman Days, February 23rd through the 25th, 2007. And Kathy again?
Yes, Your Honor. This is the application from the Rotary Club for the special event in conjunction with Lost Dutchman Days. This is the portion of the event that will be held at the rodeo grounds. We have received no objections from people at the staff level, and the applicant has been notified of tonight's hearing in the event you have any questions.
Okay, thank you. Would the applicant or their spokesperson like to address the council?
Yes, my name is Ron Lewis, and I'm the applicant and the co-chairman of the event. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them for you.
Thank you. Questions from members of the council?
If you're with the rodeo, you're with everything.
Vice Mayor?
No, I just know you're going to work hard, so.
Thank you. We do every year.
Okay, thank you. Did we get your address? I'm sorry.
It's 11561 East Kiva in Mesa.
Okay, thank you. This is a public hearing, and I'll open it up to the public at this time. Is there anyone who would like to address the council on item number 6, the special event liquor license for Lost Dutchman Days? Hearing and seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Any discussion from members of the council?
I'd like to make a motion.
Call for a motion. Councilman Sippel.
I move that the application for a special event liquor license by Superstition Mountain Rotary Club, number 1246, for Lost Dutchman Days, February 23rd through the 25th, 2007, submitted by Ronald Nice, be recommended for approval to the Arizona Department of Liquor License and Control.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Vice Mayor Eck?
Yes.
Councilmember Waldron?
Yes.
Councilmember Sippel?
Yes.
Councilmember Insulato?
Yes.
Councilmember Severs?
Yes.
Councilmember Deeds?
Yes.
Mayor Coleman?
Yes.
Unanimous, Your Honor.
Thank you. Item number 7 is another application for a new license, Corporation Series 10, liquor license for Quick Trip, number 437. And again, Kathy.
Your Honor, this is for a site that has yet to be developed. This is for a new Quick Trip that is proposed for the southeast corner of Idaho Road and Old West Highway. Because it is vacant land, it was difficult in some areas to get any approval or disapproval on it. However, the applicant has been asked to be present this evening. There were no objections from those people who looked at the site.
Okay. Would the applicant or their spokesperson like to come forward and address the council?
Mr.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council. My name is Craig Boswell. Address is 1116 East Broadway Road in Tempe. I'd be glad to answer any questions you have about Quick Trip. If you're not familiar with us, I'll be glad to tell you a little bit about it.
Any questions from...
Is this on the site of the old Chevron station there, or is it beyond?
No, sir. There's presently a doctor's office on the site that we're looking at.
Sorry, okay, the
southeast corner.
Dr. Roberts.
Any other questions?
I'm just happy to see him there. I've been in the Quick Trips and very, very elite convenience stores, to say the least. Very convenient.
Thank you.
Is this to serve the college students right next door?
And the lake goers. And,
people heading to the lake, local residents. Welcome, everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing, and I'll open it up to the public at this time. Is there anyone who would like to address the council on item number 7 on the agenda, the new liquor license for Quick Trip? Hearing and seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. I just have one question. Kathy, is this kind of a normal procedure for a new establishment going into?
It's not unusual. We've had it many times over the years. Safeway was one location where we got the application for the liquor license before
the building?
Yeah, before there was anything there. So it's not uncommon.
Okay. Yes.
We're through.
Yeah, go ahead.
I move that the application for a new license, Corporation Series 10 liquor license Quick Trip number 437, submitted by Kelly Paul Vaughn, be recommended for approval to the Arizona Department of Liquor License and Control.
Second. Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Councilmember Mr.
Yes.
Councilmember Deeds?
Yes.
Councilmember Severs?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eck?
Yes.
Councilmember Waldron?
Yes.
Councilmember Sippel?
Yes.
Mayor Coleman?
Yes.
Unanimous, Your Honor.
Thank you. Item number 8, proposed ordinance number 1279, case AM-1-06, a city-initiated text amendment revision to section 6.0116, accessory buildings and storage sheds. And Mr. Kennedy.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Just give me just a quick second to get my PowerPoint up. Just turn it on. Okay, sorry about that. Once again, good evening. Tonight what we're going to be talking about real quick is AM-1-06, accessory buildings and the rules and regulations and proposed changes to this ordinance. Okay, the history of this case. The case was initiated by a private citizen, and the PZ Commission gave direction to staff to clarify and strengthen the ordinance. This was brought before several planning and zoning commission work sessions, and on September 26th of this last year, commission voted unanimously in recommendation for council approval. This case was presented to council, the council public hearing back on October 17th of this last year as well. So here we are again tonight. Size and height of accessory buildings needs to be regulated. That's the whole purpose of this case and the point of this private citizen that initiated this. Large size can have negative impacts on the property and neighboring properties as well. The following image here, just an example that was provided to us. Possible changes that were brought up last time to section 6.0116.1 as discussed by Councilman Severs. The current ordinance, ordinance number 1279, reads, no accessory building shall be constructed upon a lot unless the construction of the main building has been completed. Pre-existing accessory buildings, may be permitted, without the establishment of the main building at the time of the, of the development of the approval, provided. Here we go. Okay, optional language. One of the things that staff came up with during discussion, no accessory buildings shall be constructed upon a lot unless the construction of the main building has been commenced / or applied for. One of those two words in there to sort of give it a little flexibility. Another optional first sentence, an accessory building may be constructed upon a lot prior to the construction of the main building for the purpose of storing goods, building materials, household, building materials, things like that. But however, this option is already permitted under the ordinance 630, which pertains to cargo containers. So that part of the ordinance already covers that part of the already covers the requirements pertaining to building an accessory building for the storage of different types of equipment.
Do you have ordinance 630 with you?
Let's see.
Todd, I was going to ask you a quick question. I've got an acre and a quarter, and we're going to build here pretty soon.
Yes, sir.
And I wanted to build a 20 by 60 accessory building on it before I built a home on it to store all of my household goods. I don't want a storage container. I want my shop to be built out in the back of my acre and a quarter.
Garage.
So that would be under option 2. Isn't that correct?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Dietz, that is correct. However, it really depends on the zoning in this case. In a minute, a few slides down, I'll be able to show that if it's zoned either GR or any one of the industrial districts, or there's some other districts involved, that this ordinance pertains to just the residential and commercial districts only. So it really depends on the zoning. So if you're zoned GR or general rural, let's say, then it's up to its own requirements. I'm sorry.
Who's GR? So it's up to?
It's up to the GR's individual requirements.
Okay, so this is an R43 and industrial.
Correct, as well as a few others that I'll be getting to, business districts. Okay. Getting to your
main structure's already built, isn't it?
It's going to be bulldozed.
Oh, it is. It doesn't have.
There's a copy of ordinance 630 in section 12.
Of your packet.
Section 12. Yeah, but I don't want to put the storage.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Severs, this is ordinance 640, which talks about the permitted uses of shipping containers. Duly licensed and bonded contractors may utilize shipping containers for the temporary housing of equipment and materials during construction at a specific site, provided such construction is authorized by a valid city building permit. So on construction sites where a permit has been issued, storage containers may be used. In response to Councilman Dietz's question, can I build an accessory building before I build a main building? Currently, as the ordinance is written, you could not do that, and I think the intent was to preclude residential properties from being used as storage properties for an indefinite amount of time. Quite simply, residential properties are not storage properties, and that's why normally you have to have a home at least permitted and under construction before accessory buildings are permitted, because after all, they are accessory buildings.
This is a shop type building,
Garage type.
Same design, same thing as the house, everything, and I don't see why anyone, not just me, but anyone couldn't do that to store everything that they need, their building materials, along with their household goods, instead of going out and getting a storage room on top of either renting a place to live for the months that I'll be out, or whoever may be out while they're building, or buying an RV or something and put on that property temporarily to live in.
We have had problems in the past. I remember when I was first on the council, we had a gentleman that came out here and on a piece of property, he built a storage room, and he brought his dogs out, pit bulls. Do you remember that?
Absolutely.
And had no intention of building on the place, but built this auxiliary building and had his pit bulls there, and he'd come out in the morning and in the evening and feed them and stuff, and the dogs would terrorize the neighborhood the rest of the time, and it looked funky, and was there just the, just just the storage room on this lot with nothing else going on.
Present a site plan with a new home and the storage building. Everything is brought in at the same time.
I could see
it's
doing
just
both
that the
concurrently.
storage building or my workshop is built first to contain all of my supplies, building materials, and household items.
Concurrently,
Once mine is
the shop
being
would be
bulldozed and the new one being built.
in the same type of manner as the home. If it's Santa Fe type of home, then the shop would be a Santa Fe type of shop, and that way, when they're both completed, you would know which one was built first, and hopefully, would have a nice home, and I'm thinking garage type storage thing. That's what happened with me. I put all my power tools in my garage when I built my home, and looks good now, and I thought the garage looked good when I first built it, but that was my concern, was being able to have a place to store my tools and on site.
So could there be a provision for a case like that if someone wanted to do that, where they've got to show a site plan with the home and the workshop under this option number 2?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Dietz, I suppose you could go with optional first sentence there, the one that's labeled as number 2. Accessory building may be constructed upon a lot prior to construction of the main building for the purpose of storing tools, building materials, or household goods. Maybe you would like to put a limit on how soon you need to build a house, or in conjunction with a home permit. That might be one way of addressing it.
I'd be okay with that.
Any kind of wording or language that is in conjunction with someone building a home.
Exactly. What's an average on a home or builder? 12 months, 6 months, 12 months?
Any permit.
I know it's every 6 months.
Every 6 months.
But for something like this, we'd want to put some type of time frame, would we not?
I would think as soon as the building permit was issued.
Well, when the building permit is issued, you have 6 months to request your first inspection. Once an inspection has been made, then your permit is automatically renewed for another 6 months. Most folks probably would like to have their homes constructed as soon as possible. On the other hand, some folks see these as projects and can literally take years to put up a building. So it depends on what the individual's needs are.
I think we should do like for the garage, or this additional building, we should do like a 6-month maximum, and you're through with that building, 6 months, you're on your way with your house. That building's done. 6 months is, I think, adequate time to build an accessory building.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Member City Council, if you're going to do that, you got to think about enforcement. What's going to happen if they didn't get it done? Are you going to?
I don't think about enforcement in that function anymore.
Would the council be wanting the city attorney's office to get an injunction against the person to tear it down? Some cities do that, but that's a political decision, really. So think about the enforcement if you do put a deadline on it.
Whatever we do, it needs to be flexible for the person building the home. If we say 6 months and say 4 months into the project, the man has a heart attack and isn't able to build the home, there needs to be extensions that are applied for and reasons that would call for that.
I think, don't we have that now based on the determination of the Development Services Director? Can't he extend like a 90-day or a 6-month thing now?
I think the building official has some discretion on extension of permits.
Extend for
right, but I'm not sure what that is. I'm not sure if Dennis is here or not.
I was thinking of some compromise and creating a date and a time frame and saying that's it. And as far as the enforcement thing, I don't we usually have about 98% enforcement. If we start having a huge problem with this, then maybe we need to come back and revise it, but I honestly don't see it being abused. To me, I see this as the person who goes and buys the $200,000 or $300,000 lot up near the mountain, is building their dream home, and they're going to build their garage first to have their stuff in it, and the home to follow. But I guess I could be wrong there, but that's what I'm looking at. So I just thought, let's try to come up with some type of compromise on a time frame and go with it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's up to you, Todd.
All right.
Why don't we just do 6 months?
That's 6 months.
The permit process, let's just stay with the permit process.
There you go. Failure for, an additional building, I think it's adequate.
All right, yeah, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor Rack, we can go ahead and just do the 6 months, 6 months, stipulation involved?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go ahead and make a note of that. Moving ahead, real quick.
That's what I'm talking
Ordinance, this is the current ordinance language that's in the new ordinance 1279 for section 6.0116. Accessory buildings permitted in the rear yard of the buildable area. With the in the residential or commercial zone in this case, shall be no larger than 75% of the existing square footage or 600 square feet, whichever is greater. This is a case-by-case basis, and this is another thing brought up by Councilmember Severs. We left this open as you can see with the red question marks, both places. What we wanted to do is just leave that open for discussion, because this is, it's one of those types of cases where it can be, it's open-ended, but it varies from case to case.
Yeah.
So, let's see. Okay. I was going to leave that open for council discussion.
Well, Your Honor.
Yes.
To me, 75% is a lot, because in a 5,000 square foot building, that's 3,750 feet. I think that's very large myself for a garage. If you go with 35%, you're talking 1,750 feet. To me, that's more than adequate.
More than adequate?
Oh, yeah. Okay. I think 75 is way too high.
Way too high.
The problem I've got with that is, what if somebody lives in a single-wide mobile home, yet they've got a $200,000 motor home, a backhoe, a trailer, a dump truck, and they want it garaged? They should be able to house their items in a garage, even if it's bigger than their house. We just went through all these property maintenance standards where we don't want people storing stuff outside. We want them stored or fenced or in the garage. Then we need to be able to give people enough size to be able to do that.
That is correct. Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Severs, later on as you can see in the ordinance, and also later on in the presentation, actually I should say, get back to the ordinance real quick. Any deviation from any of the requirements would require a CUP, but that's only one of the options. Also, in terms of lot size as well. There's different. It's one of those complicated issues, and in order for detail for your response, we can go ahead and look into that, and go ahead and get back with you at a later time. So, go ahead and get back with you, later on.
Your Honor,
Council.
what is the normal size of a garage, like a standard two-car garage?
576 square feet.
Okay, so
24 square is what I'm saying about standard. Is that
so 600 square feet?
Yeah, maybe just a hair 600 square feet, maybe. Yeah.
All right.
That's 3 times the size.
Yeah. That's
35%. That's 3 times the size of a normal garage. That's pretty large.
Well, it's whichever is greater, so 600 square feet is greater, and that's
Then
as
it would be
large as it can
600.
go.
Well, but it would be if you had a 5,000 square foot.
It's whichever is greater. So
Yeah, the existing square footage the main structure is 5,000 feet, and you're allowed up to 3,750. It's whichever is greater.
of the two numbers.
Oh, which other is greater?
Yeah.
Well, what if your structure's really small?
Got that.
Then you're limited to 600 feet, or go for a CUP.
You go for a CUP, right? You can get a 4-car garage made then and get it.
Or build it attached, correct?
Or
That would be correct. I'm sorry, detached?
No, or build it attached to the main structure.
Right.
That is correct. That is correct. They would be able to attach it.
So it's, right, so my understanding is that we're not saying you can't do it. We're saying you need to get a CUP, where you need to attach it to the building. So detached, it can't be no bigger than this. So I think that is a fair argument then to say that 75% is way too big.
Rudy, what's our standard now?
For accessory buildings, Mr.
Yeah.
Mayor? Basically, the only standard that we have is maximum lot coverage requirements and setback requirements. So on the larger lot properties, for example, I think GR, which is typically an acre and a quarter minimum lot size, you're allowed up to 1/3 coverage on a GR property. So if you've got 43,000 square feet, whatever 1/3 of 43,000 square feet, roughly 15,000 square feet can be covered by main building and accessory buildings. I'd say it varies from property to property. Like Vice Mayor said, your typical garage is maybe between 400 and 600 square feet. In a case where folks build extra accessory buildings, such as barns and workshops and
RV buildings,
RV garages, that could increase quite a bit depending on the size of the property. You're kind of limited by the size of the property, not so much any set formula. And just to reiterate Todd's point from earlier, Mr. Mayor, this ordinance does contain an opportunity for folks who want to deviate from the provisions of the ordinance to apply for a conditional use permit. And as a matter of fact, I think that if someone wants to deviate from the ordinance and apply for a CUP, there are conditions we can attach to that type of request that basically have to do with making the building as nice as possible. So if you want to do something extra large, as Mr. Sears, as Councilman Sears has suggested, it can be done. There is a process, but the city will probably be asking for extra design considerations.
Your Honor. Your Honor.
Councilman.
Do you know what other communities do on this as far as percentage?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Sippel, in terms of what other communities do, we got the 75%, I believe, from one of the ordinances, either from, I believe it was either from Phoenix or or Tempe. I believe Tempe has something like a 60%, or maybe a little larger. In terms of specifics, I don't have that information with me at this point or at this time.
Did you research many communities or just a few?
I'd say a fair amount. Several cities across the valley, and as well as Flagstaff, and a couple of cities out of state too.
That would be good to know what their percentages are.
Tempe's landlocked, that's probably the only thing that they can build on. That's why they do that.
Well, I'd like to see at least 50%.
Yeah, I'm okay with 50.
Yeah.
I'm okay with 50. 75 just is so much. It just seems big. I guess we're not all building 5,000 square foot homes, but 50 is fine.
Okay, responses continued. This was an issue brought up by Councilmember Severs relative to section 6.0116.5. If there is a setback required for accessory buildings that house poultry or small animals, then there should be something, a setback for a horse corral. Which potentially is more dangerous. However, this kind of deviates from this study. Staff suggests that if council wants to create a setback, it would have to be done through through another study, a new case, because it involves fences and stuff. Because horse corrals can go all the way back to the fence to the property line. An accessory building for small animals has its own setback requirements involved. So that's the whole thing about the horse corral. It's for another study, for right now. But anyhow, Moving ahead, this was a response to a suggestion from Councilmember Waldron. Possible changes to this case, and to this section, not even on a temporary basis. This is for section 6.0116.1D. And pretty much, Councilmember Waldron, you suggested just to delete this phrase right here?
Sure. I mean, it already reads it can't be done.
Yeah.
So it's kind of some redundant. It's a minor issue, but it's just redundant.
Correct.
Repetitive and repetitious.
Understood.
I'd like to live in my temporary building while my house is being built.
Well, this is already saying you can't.
It already says you
It already
can't.
says you can't.
I know, that needs to be changed as well. You can build a garage in 2 to 3 weeks. You could live in that garage while building your home.
No.
And that would look a lot better on a property than another travel trailer.
Yeah, but a travel trailer we know is temporary.
But the garage is not temporary. It's going to stay as your garage when you finish your home.
That's exactly my point, if you finish your home.
So people would like living in a garage forever with a half-built home built. It doesn't make any sense. If somebody wants to build a garage and move into it until they get their home built, that would be more practical than allowing them to live in a travel trailer while building their home.
This is one issue then we just won't agree on.
That's fine.
And I think it'd be real difficult to enforce. Just don't think it could be done.
We should be able to.
All right.
Well, you're going to rent a house while you're having your house built, after you build your garage. Or
Can't do it.
Okay, let's go on with the presentation.
This is a point brought up by you, Vice Mayor Ack, about the different zoning districts. This is not applicable to the GR zone in this case. Other districts that have their own accessory buildings requirements include TR, transitional zone, CB1 and CB2, which are the business zones, and CI1 and CI2, which are the industrial zones. Other than that, the residential and commercial, that's where accessory buildings pertain to, or this section.
This is going to primarily pertain to R43, is it not?
Correct, yes. R140.
I thought GR, when originally we were talking about this, I thought we were talking about GR also. Rudy shaking his head no. So,
sorry, Mr. Vice Mayor, this pertains to R143, CR1, CR2, CR3, R18, R18MH.
What is a CI1 and 2?
CI1 and CI2 are the industrial zones, which have their own accessory building regulations, including the other zones that the topics call out.
Okay, so they could be...
The GR zone also has its own accessory building regulations. Zoning districts which don't have their own accessory building regulations would have this code change applicable to those.
So the GR zone already has its regulations?
It has its own accessory building regulations.
And how similar is it to these changes that we're talking about making right now?
Are they at 75%? Or do you know?
In some cases similar, in some cases not.
So we're going to need to go through the GR ordinance as well and modify it to make it more user-friendly.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Severs, we specifically, for various reasons, left GR completely alone.
Isn't GR large lot, like acre?
Yes.
Acre and a quarter, largest one. And they've got a lot of rules on them that are...
So according to GR, you can't build a garage first.
No, I thought you said I could on a GR lot. Are you looking that up, Rudy, on a GR lot?
Here are the...
Here are the GR accessory building regulations. Permitted coverage, 1/3 total area of rear and side yards, maximum height 20 feet, minimum distance to the main building 7 feet, minimum distance to front lot line 60 feet. For your typical acre and a quarter lot, minimum distance to side and rear 4 feet. The building is not used for poultry or animals, 15. And on the side and 4 from the rear, if used for poultry or animals, 50 feet if used for livestock. So barns, stables, things like that would be required to be 50 feet. That is the greatest restriction in the GR zone.
Your Honor. So essentially on a GR, then 1/3, they could cover 11,000 square feet of that?
Yes. 1/3 of the total area of the rear and side yards.
It's a big house and garage.
Right, and that could consist of several buildings,
might
tax
be a
shed,
tack
barn,
room, right.
workshop, garage,
Yeah.
it could be several buildings.
What I'm just saying is there's a lot of coverage that could be done already in the current accessory code.
In the GR zone, right. The GR zone is pretty liberal with regard to accessory buildings.
So in GR, you can do the 1/3 of the total coverage, but in R143, you can't.
That's correct. The R143 zone is our most restrictive zoning district.
And can you build one in here without the main, on the GR, without the main, the main structure being built?
We said yes earlier, didn't we?
Not for GR.
Well, since the GR zone
R43.
allows a stand of not more than 200 square feet in area for the sale of farm products grown or produced on the premises, I would interpret that to mean that in the GR zone, you can have other uses besides, without the establishment of a main principal residential use. For example, the GR zone allows the raising and grazing of livestock and horses without the presence of a residential building. So the GR zone is an agricultural, horticultural type of zoning district where a main residence does not need to be established first. GH, accessory building or use, home occupation, housing for seasonal farm labor, private stables. So those are outright permitted uses in the GR zone, in addition to single-family dwelling, conventional or manufactured home.
Okay. Recreational vehicle, not more than 90 days, construction of the same premises. First period may be extended further.
To me, I think the only thing I'm hearing that there's any real disagreement on is the percentage on R43, whether it should be 50 or 75%. Right? I haven't heard anything else that there's a real disagreement on.
You can't live in the structure. That's a disagreement.
Oh, yeah, and
Yeah, you just had it up there where you couldn't in travel trail.
In a GR.
Right.
Questions? Comments?
On a R143, you can live in an RV or travel trailer while your premises is being built
Yes,
or
sir.
offsite.
Can you do that in a GR?
Yes.
Yet in neither one of them you could live in the garage.
No. Because the garage would have to be constructed as a residence.
Yeah.
In other words, it would have to have its sanitary facilities, its living facilities, and its cooking facilities. So in effect, you would build a house first to build your other house.
Right.
And then have to discombobulate your kitchen more than anything else.
Any other comments or questions?
If they had to go over 50%, they could go to a CUP if necessary and work out some design review or something to get the levels going.
Yeah, correct.
So you do have choices, you do have chances to get your 75%.
It's a nice area.
Your Honor.
Councilman?
Councilman Dees, was it your thought to have someone live in the structure as well, or you're just more worried about size?
No, I just said it would sure be convenient for me to be able to live in the shop that I build when I'm building my house.
Absolutely.
But I can understand that as far as regulating and,
So he's going to buy a travel trailer, so he's good.
But here's the deal, if you build a garage, it's got electricity in it already. A lot of people's garages have air conditioning and heating in them.
I don't know a lot of people that have it.
Some people have a garage with a bathroom in them, if they're using it as a workshop.
Okay.
There's no reason in the world why you couldn't throw a couple divider walls and a bedroom in there.
Well, let's vote on that and see.
While you're building your house, instead of bringing another trailer onto a property. It just seems to make sense, and it's more convenient to the person who may need to do that.
Well, why don't we vote on that and see what happens?
You say
Why don't we have discussion about it?
We just did.
Okay? I'm not cutting you off. Don't disrespect me.
Okay, that was consistent above a newspaper article recently.
Okay, all right, let's, my concern would be enforcement. just, how do you tell when they move out, when, I mean, I just, I don't see it happening.
You wait till the neighbor calls.
And then you go, any other questions or comments?
Yeah, it's the enforcement was what would worry me about it, even though I'd like to do it. But I know I wouldn't be there very long, and I can't it would be hard to, it'd be really tough to enforce, and I could see where somebody could take advantage of it.
I think we've got something accomplished here. We need to move forward with what we've got accomplished.
Okay, thank you. This is a public hearing, and I'll open it up to the public at this time. Is there anyone who would like to address the council on item number 8 on the agenda, proposed ordinance number 1279, city-initiated text amendment revision of the section on accessory buildings and storage sheds? Yes.
Yeah, Louis Bowman on South Bowman, Apache Junction. In the south, the antebellum homes, actually there is a situation where you built the home before you built the home. Those old homes, the annex, the small home in the back was actually built first for the supplies and construction materials to build the larger antebellum home. And then it became the, well, lack of a better term, the slave quarters, or what you could call the farm worker quarters, which I guess you'd call them out here. A lot of the supplies were kept so the house could be kept, the main house could be kept neat. It's probably an archaic concept, and most of the plantation homes were what would be considered massive rural properties. So I probably would fall on the side of not allowing people to build a garage into a home before building another home concerning that issue. Some of the, along the Colorado River, near the Lake House area, people are building houses with the garages large enough to have the supersized motorhomes, and those garages are at least 50% of the size of the house. I've seen that. I don't know if they've gotten conditional use permits. They're kind of close together on the Colorado River, so they're not size-wise general rural properties, but that's just what I've seen. I don't know if that necessarily is applicable for Apache Junction or not. I'm on the Planning and Zoning Commission as well. We were thinking that, I was just speaking for myself, I was thinking that it's not just a great idea to have the accessory building substantially much, much larger than the house, especially not attached inside the city limit proper of Apache Junction that's not rural, general rural, but the smaller residential areas, because the other neighbors see this big, huge monstrosity of an accessory building and they say, what is that? And it just is so large. And I think that's one of the things that one of the citizens came to a P&Z meeting and asked us to look into. So those are my comments.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council?
Chip Wilson, 128 South Star. I currently live in a GR, but there's several of people that I know that have in 143. Now, accessory buildings, in GR, it's total to 1/3. If you have a tack room, if you have a barn, if you have a enclosed mail motel, and in this aspect, you can far exceed 50% very quickly to include your garage. And you can have the same size garage that you're talking about of 600 square foot, because your mail motel will end up even being bigger. Depends on the number of animals you have, the hay that you keep. I currently have a hay shed at Summer Inn is pretty darn close to that size. I go through a lot of hay. So you have to take them into account in these large lots on R143, because you are going to have people. Now, they require everybody to come in to put in, apply for permits and to go with an exception. Why are we trying to generate more money in this aspect for the community?
75% would be more of what you're saying.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I understand.
That's my opinion as far as what they say, because there is a lot of 143 that have horses, and they have some very fantastic looking homes. They have some very nice looking two-car garages, And they've got some very nice-looking outbuildings that include the tack rooms and other buildings are outside, to include in a barn. Please take those into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council?
San Marcos, Apache Junction. This is kind of a prime example of some of what's been going on that gets everything in trouble. You are putting something in here where, once again, you have 5-acre parcels that are out there, maybe even some 10-acre parcels. You have some grandfathered use that's out there, and it's not being taken into account. Some of these people helped build Apache Junction in this area. As Joe said, they've got maybe loaders, dump trucks, and other large equipment that if they want to keep it safe from vandalism, they steal one of those batteries. That's like $400 or $500, one battery. And so to keep it safe from theft and vandalism, etc., they need a large shed or whatever to put it in. When you put these laws and changes together, you have to realize every piece of property isn't a small piece of property. You require people to put equipment away so it's not unsightly from the street. Then you limit what they can put away. It's creating more of a problem rather than solving a problem. You have to instill exceptions, like with some of the stuff where it says you can have a couple of horses with your acre and a quarter, but you can have more horses with 5 acres. You can board horses with 5 acres. But then when you do a law, you have to target those people as well, allowing them to continue doing what they're able to do, and give them non-conforming use in some cases without them having to pay a bunch of money because they didn't create the problem. The city did. So you can survey what properties are out there, and you can put in, except for these properties which have these uses, and/or except for these businesses and these types of people who have these types of needs. You have to have some exceptions so that you're not creating more problems and, in effect, violating the Constitution using zoning and the law to preclude reasonable use of the property. Otherwise, what you've done is void. Doesn't matter what your vote is. Constitution upsets it. Priority of law. Constitution of the United States first. No other law can override or disagree with the Constitution of the United States. Get it, study it, make sure the laws that you make conform to it. Otherwise, you're wasting time.
Joel, I thought we could make our own policies. We can't make our own policies.
Is that a serious question?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can't make our own policies here?
Council.
Why are we here? We can't make our own policies.
You can do text amendments, and that's what...
There you go. Okay. So we'll call...
As long as they're constitutional.
Okay.
Are we not right that if a person's got a 5-acre or a 10-acre piece of property, that they can cover up to 60% of that?
They go 70, right now, we're still at 75%
If
on
there's
the
a
acre.
general rule on a 10-acre
Yes.
property, they can go
On a-
60% of their rear and side yard, right?
On a general rule, they can still go 75%, which is 32,000 square feet of building. So I don't know where we're limiting property rights.
Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council on item number 8 on the agenda?
75%.
Okay, hearing and seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Questions, comments, discussion from members of the council?
Your Honor.
Councilman.
Rudy, what's the cost if they have to come back and get, what is it called? CUP, thank you. What's the cost of that?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Sippel, I don't have the fee schedule in front of me, but I believe our fee for a conditional use permit is now around $400.
Does that cover the city's cost?
Well, that's a cappy question. There was advertising that's involved. The costs, the processing costs are probably not as much as a rezoning, because conditional use permits normally only have to be advertised once, because conditional use permits are decided by P&Z, whereas your typical rezoning goes to P&Z and council and are advertised twice. The other thing about conditional use permits, Kathy, please correct me if I'm wrong, do resolutions get published? Okay, in rezoning, the rezoning ordinance gets published, but in a CUP, the resolution does not get published, so we also save some money there. So we're probably saving on the equipment of costs with conditional use permits than we are with rezonings.
Just for a point of clarification, state law is very specific that if you enact legislation on behalf of an individual, they have to pay the publication cost.
Yeah.
There's also the labor cost. Depends on the case.
And the
$400 may not cover every single case.
The CUP would only be for new construction, correct? Someone's going to build an outbuilding. People that already have them wouldn't have to come in and get a CUP for already existing buildings
if people find hardship with the code as it's written, they can apply for a CUP to get special consideration. Similar to our landscape code, if people find hardship with the landscape code, they can appeal to council to be allowed deviations from the code.
Yeah, but what I'm asking is, if they're already built and they're at current code and then we change it, they don't have to come in and apply for a CUP to cover already existing buildings.
That's correct.
Which I think was an implication a little earlier. Okay. Any other? Yes.
I do have one more comment, and it is very simple when people come up to address the public, and I'm glad that we get them to make the comment like, you've got to remember the people who live on the large acres. But we also have to remember the people who live on the 8,000 square foot parcels. And as a council member, it's very difficult when you make a decision because you do have to remember horse and large acre owners and small property owners. And in this ordinance, this is the case. And I hope that you realize that we have ample amount of paperwork up here and we ask diligent questions to get answers, and it's not an easy decision every time. So I just would hope that when you leave this, knowing that the decision that we make is good for the entire community. Now, you may not feel that way, and I understand that, but know that that's a decision when I make it, I feel good that we made it for the entire community.
Okay, other discussion?
Yeah, I think the biggest issue of this whole thing is we're talking 15%. Aren't we talking 15% between the 60 and the 75%? And I just shouldn't go with the 75%.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Because you're on a smaller lot, it should be less percentage, and leave it at that.
That's fine.
The problem is that you are in our...
And then we're through.
That's fine.
Yeah.
You want a motion, Aaron?
Well,
No, that's 75%.
let me just...
On the 143.
Exactly, 75% of the square foot of the house. So it's different.
Okay, yeah, I'll call for a motion.
Your Honor.
Councilman Waldron.
I move that ordinance number 1279 be read by title only and the reading of the entire ordinance be waived.
Second.
Moved and seconded, roll call.
Councilmember Waldron?
Yes.
Councilmember Sippel?
Yes.
Councilmember Zalaka?
Yes.
Councilmember Deeds?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eck?
Yes.
Councilmember Severs?
Absolutely not.
Wait, no, this is going to read the entire ordinance.
This is reading of the
The whole
ordinance.
thing is wrong. The whole thing is
Oh,
wrong.
yes, so she doesn't have to read the entire ordinance.
All right. Yes.
Mayor Coleman?
No on the rest.
Yes.
Unanimous, Your Honor. Ordinance number 1279, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Apache Junction, Arizona, amending the Apache Junction City Code, Volume 2, Land Development Code, Chapter 1, Zoning Ordinance, Article 6, General Provisions and Exceptions, repealing and replacing in its entirety Section 6.0116, accessory buildings and storage sheds, and 6.0117, detached accessory building on corner lot, repealing any conflicting provisions and providing for severability.
Thank you. Now the main motion.
Your Honor.
Councilman.
I move that ordinance number 1279 is read by the city clerk be approved and adopted with the following amendments. That under section 6.0116, item 1, read to say an accessory building may be constructed upon a lot prior to the construction of the main building for the purpose of storing tools, building materials, or household goods, and construction of the main building must be commenced within 6 months after completion of the accessory building. And that under section 6.0116, Section 1, subsection B, that in line 2 and 3, the term "not even on a temporary basis" be stricken, and that it be approved.
That leaves the 75.
Okay. Is there a second?
That does leave the 75.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
That leaves the 75.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, roll call.
Councilmember Simmel?
Yes.
Councilmember Deeds?
Yes.
Councilmember Severs?
Joe Severs.
Councilmember
No.
Councilmember Waldron?
Yes.
Councilmember Slakos?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ed?
Yes.
Mayor Coleman?
Yes.
6 in favor, 1 opposed, the motion carries.
Thank you. Let's take a 10-minute break right here.
Okay.
His neighbor can ask us.
Then he can have 75% of his house. Actually, the guy
Just like the guy who lives in GR, who now can build 30,000.
I didn't hear you arguing that you
Oh, I got a maroon See, if I brought that home, I'd have to put it up real high. Oh, my God. He's rubbing there. For sleeping.
143 is what's other. Well, that's the problem. People are building these big units oversized.
No, I went on vacation the 18th. I went on vacation, my vacation was the 18th through the 25th. I brought it to her the week before I went on vacation, either Well, she said that it would be in next week's paper. I mean, well, yeah, I don't know when.
It didn't seem like a big problem. I still don't quite understand exactly. Everybody's trying to two groups of people in our center of our community that live on the same size house on there. You can't tell me this gentleman can have 30,000 square foot garage. I live across the street. I live in a 7,000 square foot house. Unfortunately, I live in a small house. Now I can have a 600 square foot house and you can have 30,000. Okay. We got to start being fair. When I ran for city hall,
I don't have a kitchen timer anymore. Oh, you got more people. I was before. I can send it for free. This shouldn't. I asked him to say I'll send it, and then he doesn't. Okay. You can send those to me. He and I exchanged comments usually, and I didn't get this set. Because they're actually the tax code ordinance. I don't know. Yeah. See, I don't, they're not here. I don't have any. All I have is summer. Right. That's all. Yep. Because I said it was one. Are you sure you want one?
I thought they were.
Oh, they're weird.
We got a little bigger target on the chest than say here. Yeah.
Okay. Oh.
But I actually have thought about I would have had to design bigger.
My computer's fine. She thinks it's your computer. And she said she would be over to check yours, and that was weeks ago. Somebody said that's probably something that's... Thank you. That's pretty bad.
It is. Pretty cool. Big.
I saw that.
Ventilation problems, heating and cooling problems, maybe your building's
Then change it.
Sit.
Just wanted Ari to know what it feels like to wait.
You already know what.
What it feels like to wait.
And that was a long time, too. I don't really like that.
We'll call the meeting back to order, and under old business, go to discussion and possible direction on the City of Apache Junction labor market. And am I going to you on this, Liz, or George, Liz?
I'm here to answer
Okay.
any questions. Yes, Liz Riley, Director of Human Resources. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. I'm before you tonight seeking some direction on the labor market for the city. The resolution number 04-28, which is employee communications and problem solving, states that the mayor and city council shall identify the labor market. On December 5th, I came before you and brought information that staff provided regarding the current labor market and the proposed labor market and benchmarking of 6 positions against the proposed labor market. At that meeting, you requested two things. You wanted the addition of Chandler and Gilbert to the proposed labor market. You wanted benchmarking of the 6 positions against the current, proposed, and the alternate labor market, which included Chandler and Gilbert. The city manager, George Hoffman, provided those items to you on December 8th in his weekly report. And I think before this meeting, Brian Powell also provided you with the list of municipalities in each of the 3 labor markets. So I'm here if you have any questions, and I will try to address them. If not, I respectfully request direction on the city's labor market.
Your Honor.
Councilman.
Liz, I just want to thank you for throwing those other ones in there, and after discussion, it looks to me as, through looking at the data, that there really is no big difference. So I am fine with what you brought to us originally, prior to me wanting to see the other 2 in there. So thank you for getting that.
Okay. Anything else?
Since they're in there, should we just wait them?
Yeah, I thought that after going through them, I thought the alternative market with Chandler and Gilbert, we were actually fairly close on.
Yeah.
You know, and that's real. I don't know if maybe we just want to stick with that, since we're a little bit closer anyway.
Yep. It's really up to you.
With the Chandler and the Gilbert added to it, I thought.
You're talking about alternative C?
The alternative with Chandler and Gilbert added to the alternative because I think our percentages, we actually, on the benchmarks that they did provide for us on the very few positions.
The alternative brings the total to 11, which that was what the current labor market was 11. And what it does not include is Oil Valley, Scottsdale, and Tempe.
Okay.
From the original. And in addition would be Buckeye, that wasn't in the original.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you, Liz. Councilman?
I move that the following direction be given to staff regarding the City of Apache Junction labor market, that we use alternative C. Is that good?
That's the one with Gilbert and Chandler in it?
Correct.
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Councilmember Severs?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eck?
Yes.
Councilmember Waldron?
Yes.
Councilmember Sibley?
Yes.
Councilmember Deeds?
Yes.
Councilmember Zlotko?
Yes.
Mayor Coleman?
Yes.
Unanimous, Your Honor.
Thank you. Item number 10, discussion on the City of Apache Junction personnel rules. And Liz?
Okay, thank you. Again, I'm here tonight to respond to any questions that you may have regarding the proposed revisions to the city's personnel rules. The rules were made available to you on December 29th, but I think probably most of you didn't get them until the next week, which would have begun with January 2nd, because January 1st was New Year's Day. Prior to responding to your questions, I would like to provide you a brief overview of the type of revisions that are proposed. And if you looked at the rules with the strikeouts and the highlights, you've probably noticed this. But basically, they're housekeeping, their insertion of language directly from the law, and there are several policy proposals there. They provide for consistency in terms, and they remove redundancy. The city attorney has reviewed the proposed document and has made some suggestions regarding spelling and language to clarify the intent of the provision. He also has suggested some important language regarding the discipline, grievance, and appeal procedure, which are Rules 16 through 18. I believe today he will provide a brief overview of those rules. They are not contained in the proposed rules that you received because they came after the date that those went to you. If I may give you a little example, title changes. One would be my title, Human Resources Manager, was changed to Human Resources Director. That's a lot of the yellow and the strikeout that you see across those rules. In the table of contents, we added career status, and we clarified employee list versus eligible list, and class spec versus job specification, things like that. We also clarified terms of immediate family under Section 5, sick leave. There had been no definition. It just simply said immediate family, and immediate family was defined in several different ways throughout the rules. We clarified policy, the Immigration and Reform and Control Act, the I-9 that new employees have to complete. I believe we got rid of the old language and brought the language directly from the Immigration and Reform Control Act and put it right there so it was clear and concise. Hiring of relatives, we allowed for the hiring of seasonal, intermittent, limited lifeguards, rec leaders, part-time, et cetera, in the summer to be employed in the Parks Department if a parent, spouse, sister, brother was there in that department. The rest of the city still prohibits the hiring of relatives related by blood in the same department if there is going to be a supervisory function. That did not change. We just allowed for seasonal lifeguards, rec to that type of employee to be employed in parks.
I missed out on that.
Vacation leave, we removed the language that expired on January 1st, 2006. And we also put in another consideration, which was the removal of establishing a percentage available for merit pay, because with the establishment of the STEP plan in July of 2005, this is no longer the practice. Some policy changes. The performance reviews are conducted annually at a time designated by the city. They're no longer conducted at the classification date, the employee's classification date. And the eligibility for annual increase is not tied to passing a performance review. Okay, we've separated the performance review and the advancement on the step in hopes to create a more of a development tool for both the department head, the supervisor, the manager, and the employee. And we also inserted a provision where the city council continues to have the ability to amend the classification plan, but it would also allow the city manager to amend the classification plan outside of the budget process when positions in salary group 59 and below are involved, as long as the action does not negatively impact the city's budget. It allows for a little bit more flexibility. Currently, there are 24 titles that are in group 60 and above. There are division managers, department heads, 2 deputies, and the assistant city manager. And the city manager, that provision does not allow the city manager to do anything with those titles without bringing them first to you, the city council. There are some spelling errors, which again accounts for a lot of the yellow words, such as firm might have been typed and it should have been from. There might have been an in, the letter N as opposed to I-N, the word in, that type of thing. There might have been an R when it really should have been a to, sued for used, things like that. So some general housekeeping. If you have any questions, hopefully I'll be able to answer them. If not, I'm sure that I can get an answer to you this week.
Ms. Reed, will this be brought back?
I think after tonight's meeting, I'll incorporate Joel's comments and suggestions and then provide it to the council. I was going to provide it to you without the strikeouts and the yellow, but since you will not have seen Joel's comments, I think I'll give you another strikeout and highlight and also create a clean document so that there is a clean document. If you like, I can give you the clean document in addition to the strikeout and yellow. It's really up to you.
So if we were to answer that calendar date, we would say
February 6th. February 6th or...
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you asked when would you get the document.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And you'll see it in a different form. What you'll see is an ordinance that adopts it by reference, and then the resolution would declare it a public record, and then this would be an amendment.
I think just the new one with the strikeout would be fine, with the strikeouts and the new added into it. I don't think you have to do a clean form along with it.
Okay.
You know, that's just too many ways.
It is helpful to see the changes.
Yeah, it is. I like.
And Mr. Mayor, Ms. Riley did cover pretty much. I had some grammatical things and some consistency things. Can't say that tonight, but there is a significant provision under the appellate procedures where if someone wanted to appeal the city manager's decision, they can go to a hearing officer. That's the same. The question is whether the hearing officer can look at the case as a whole, substitute his or her own judgment, because that came up, that has come up in some case law, on whether the standard of review, the legal review, whether they can just go off and substitute their own opinion instead of the city manager's. And so we're going to change that so that, no, they cannot do that. They have to actually say that the decision, or if it was arbitrary or was taken without reasonable cause, then the appeal will be sustained, meaning the employee would win. Otherwise, the appeal would be dismissed in its entirety. So it's just a legal issue, but it's an important one on what kind of standard review you want the hearing officer to have.
You want us to tell you, or?
No, I'm recommending.
You're recommending?
Yeah, I'm recommending, and I have had some legal counsel look at the standard, and so they do agree with us that it should be the similar standard of review that Maricopa County has. Maricopa County uses the same standard, actually.
And I think, Joe, if I may, what you're saying is that a hearing officer couldn't look at a case and say, discipline was too extreme, you should do this. He's saying either I'm sustaining the appeal or I'm...
Yes, the new language would take away the discretion to say, you know, you gave the guy 10 days off. I think they should get 5 days off. They won't be allowed to do that. What they'd have to do is they'd have to have a finding that says the decision was not arbitrary and was not taken without reasonable cause. And therefore, I'm going to dismiss the appeal.
Okay. Liz, do you know what was the bereavement leave change in Section 11? I don't have it in front of me, it just says bereavement leave, and I know it finds that.
Do you know what it is?
I don't recall. It's just from Section 11.
Let me go there, please.
Might just been, it says ground function. I don't know if there's...
Section
It may not be enough to change.
2 pages.
It actually is, if I remember right, you keep checking, it has to do with defining relatives who helped us. We had a situation recently where...
The addition was foster care child.
Okay. Even though I was pretty lenient on that, I thought, and honestly, I thought that was one item where leniency was kind of a good thing. You know,
Right. Yeah, that was the only change to the bereavement. Oh, the other one was putting parentheses around 3. After you spell out 3, then putting the 3 just so it stands out a little bit.
I was just curious. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
You certainly may call me if you have some questions, if there's an area that you would like some further information on. I'm happy to respond to any questions that you may have. And I will provide another copy, a different copy of the strikeout and highlight, which will incorporate the city attorney's comments.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Item number 11, fiscal year 2007 State Housing Fund grant application. Mr. Hacker. Good evening, Mr. As we know, on December 5th, staff came to and asked for permission to submit a letter of intent that the city was going to submit an application to the Department of Housing for funding to continue our housing rehab program. This is the next step in that process. There's 3 resolutions that need to be included in our application. They would be, first resolution, authority to submit. Second resolution, commitment of local funds. And the third resolution would be the amendments proposed for the housing rehab guidelines. If you approve those 3 amendments, which this staff respectfully requests, we will be submitting an application for $440,000 to the State Housing Fund. We will be matching that with $20,000 city funds. That would give us the rehabilitation of 5 homes and emergency repair of 10 homes, plus administrative fees to manage those programs. I will take any questions that you have. Questions, Councilman?
Roger, did you go through this? I mean, did you? This is a great job. So whoever in your staff, whether it be you or Melinda, or your staff did it, I'm assuming. They did a great job.
Thank you. And I should mention, the city attorney has reviewed this. We've included his suggestions. The housing rehab specialist for CAG reviewed it and gave her suggestions. And the suggested changes are housekeeping, correcting addresses, or it puts us in line with Department of Housing regulations.
Yeah, good.
Any other questions? Thanks, Roger. I'll call for a motion.
Your Honor.
Councilman Waldron.
I move resolution number 0702, a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Apache Junction authorizing the submission of an application for the State Housing Fund, which may include federal funding through the Home Investment Partnership Program or state housing funds, certifying that said application meets the community's housing and community development needs and the requirements of the state housing programs, and authorizing all actions necessary to be implemented and complete the activities outlined in said application be approved. I move the resolution.
Oh, you can do separate one time?
I think I can do them all.
One time. I move the resolution number 0703, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Apache Junction committing local funds as leverage for the fiscal year 2007 State Housing Fund SHF application be approved. I move the resolution number 0704, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Apache Junction, Arizona, authorizing the adoption of owner-occupied housing rehabilitation guidelines dated February 1st, 1994, as amended in relation to an application for fiscal year 2007 State Housing Fund for a housing rehabilitation activity be approved.
Second.
He was further moving on the other two items, so moved and seconded. Roll call.
Councilmember Deeds?
Yes.
Councilmember Insalaco?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eck?
Yes.
Councilmember Severs?
Yes.
Councilmember Sippel?
Yes.
Councilmember Waldron?
Yes.
Mayor Coleman?
Yes.
Unanimous, Your Honor.
Thank you. Item number 12, ordinance number 630, establishing and enacting regulations regarding the use of shipping containers within the corporate limits. Councilmember Severs.
I do not wish to discuss this item with this council. I would like to continue it indefinitely.
Is that a motion?
If they're going to continue it, it would be certain, however, if he does not want to bring it back any day yet, it should be a motion to table.
Motion to table?
Motion to table it. Yep.
Actually,
Second, then.
it was not on the agenda tonight for action.
But whether they wanted to discuss it tonight is still an issue.
Oh, apparently not. Let's move on.
Is that...
Well, what if he wants to bring this up 6 months from now? Are you saying he's got a motion to table it?
No, I'm saying if he can make a motion, or the mayor can call for a motion on whether this can be discussed tonight.
Oh, okay.
And if you don't want to discuss it, then it could be a simple motion that, you know what, let's not discuss this tonight.
I'll call for a motion on whether or not we want to discuss item 12 tonight.
Your Honor,
Councilman Severs.
I move that we do not discuss this item tonight.
Is there a second?
Second.
Even though this wasn't on for action, we can take this action? I'm just curious, you're my parliamentarian, Mr. Attorney.
I don't think you are, you're not directing staff on this. But
Okay.
I think if you don't want to talk about it tonight, you could go on, but I don't
spent a
know.
lot of time talking about it.
Just let us make the motion so we're done. I was asked.
Motion and a second on the floor.
There's a motion and a second. Roll call.
Vice Mayor Eck?
Do we want to talk it? No.
This is to not discuss.
Oh, then yes.
Yes. Thank you. I was lost.
Councilmember Waldron?
Yes.
Councilmember Sippel?
Yes.
Councilmember Insalaco?
Yes.
Councilmember Severs?
Yes.
Councilmember Deeds?
Yes.
Mayor Coleman?
You know, I really wanted to talk about it, but yes. Item number 13 under new business, proposed resolution number 07-01, authority to submit a fiscal year 2007 Arc-Cheerleading Community State Shared Revenue Program grant application.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. This is Roger Yanker, Grants Coordinator. Staff respectfully requests that you adopt Resolution 0701 that authorizes an application to be submitted to the Action Indian Community for $102,000 to fund equipment, uniforms, training, and testing for the auxiliary patrol within the police department. It also commits about $400,000 of local match, which is contained in these police department's budget either this year or next fiscal year. And I think at this time, Mrs. Suzanne Strong would like to say a few words about the application.
He told me he was going to call me Suzanne Summers, and he didn't.
As you know, I'm Suzanne Strong, the Community Resource Coordinator for the Police Department, and have been working on the Auxiliary Patrol Program for a little while now. And I just wanted to expound a little bit on the Auxiliary Program, and I promise I'll only take 1 minute. The Police Department has 39 volunteers right now, all part of the Auxiliary Program. However, the Auxiliary Patrol members number 5. We have 5 Auxiliary Patrol members. Now, in October, November, and December of last year, those 5 members logged in 958 hours of service to the police department. That average is about 80 hours a week. Wow. A lot of hours. Now, according to the recent reports based on the stats from the Bureau of Labor, valuing volunteer hours at $18.04 an hour, that totals $17,282 that were saved in the last 3 months of 2006 by people helping the police department. As you know, our officers are still operating shorthanded, so the Auxiliary Patrol Program was such a boost to the officers. They not only assisted them during accidents, truck enforcement details, DUI details, surveillance situations, but they also assisted in community programs. You probably read about the shopping cart program. We've done the knock and listen events. We've done VIN etching, and they've been there. They've been there with us, and without them, we couldn't have done what we have done. So just think what 25 members can do for the police department. And I also want to say that Roger did an excellent job on this grant. Thank you.
Thank you. To burn out those 5 that couldn't hours. Oh,
You know, I just real quickly have to say, I was serious, Susan, on that. I thought it was kind of humorous seeing that in the paper where someone's complaining about they should be doing something else other than shopping carts. I think not realizing they were auxiliary. But how many shopping carts do you see out amongst the community just sitting everywhere? And I noticed the difference. I noticed as soon as they started. So I thought it was kind of a very useful tool. And I think they're also pretty good engineers too, because I have a neighbor with the radio, and he likes to listen. I peek in every now and then and listen on them, and they've done pretty good with engineers. So I think it's a great program. Very good program.
Any other questions, Councilman Mulder?
And certainly, I hope we get the grant, but if we don't get the grant, is there a contingency to pay these costs for the additional auxiliary if we're not successful?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I don't know how the chief would answer that from the project portion that I've been working on with Mrs. Strong. We've got another grant source that we want to submit it in another application to if this is not successful. I don't know if there's budgeted money within the police department's budget or not.
Rogers, your grants always get approved.
Thanks, yeah.
Yeah, you're the man. You're the guy.
The others will tell you that.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I'll call for a motion. Councilman Dietz.
I move that resolution number 0701, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Apache Junction, Arizona, approving the submittal of a grant application to Ak-Chin Indian Community for Proposition 202 funds be approved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Councilmember Waldron?
Yes.
Councilmember Sippel?
Yes.
Councilmember Ismaco?
Yes.
Councilmember Deeds?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eck?
Yes.
Councilmember Severs?
Yes.
Mayor Coleman?
Yes.
Unanimous, Your Honor.
Thank you. Item number 14, discussion on case PZ-14-06, a rezoning request by Preston Stapley and Kim Eden of E-Build Contracting. And Mr. Kennedy, there you are.
Here we go. Okay. Oops, there we go.
9 years ago.
Come on.
Now there would have been 4,000.
Looks like my thing froze.
From teenage.
All right, improvise.
Townhomes.
Let's see. Looks like the computer froze on me or something. Let's see.
I can tell you about this one.
Give us a background.
Technology has its drawbacks.
Let's see.
That's called RE.
Matt.
Uh-oh.
Go ahead and read it, all right?
I do apologize.
You're forgiven.
What'd you do, Todd?
I don't know. Yeah.
Where is this piece of...
What's that?
Yeah. Here, I'll just use this.
Yeah, but this is...
Right there, project on, or system on.
It's 1549. Yes. It's a south. East.
All right.
This is 60. I remember that guy. He's got the chain link fence around the property. And he wanted to put the mobile home sales there. I remember that.
I kind of remember that.
Yeah.
Okay,
It was on the south.
Oh, no, I know this. I know this.
It's across the street from Pat Richmond, isn't it?
Yeah, this one is.
Yeah.
Yeah. This 16. They're taking all this.
Okay, very good. Okay, so once again, members of the council, Mr. Mayor, good evening. This case, PC 1406, is a request by Kim Eaton, Preston Stable Eagle Contracting to rezone a parcel located at 1577, or actually 1549 South Union Drive, which is on the corner of Meridian and 16th Avenue. They're requesting to rezone from PH to C5 PD, turn on site to multifamily residential by a planned development. The reason for that development is, or that rezoning proposal is to allow the construction of a 14-unit townhome subdivision. Let's see.
Yeah.
Yes, but that didn't work.
Okay. 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 It's still not moving though, but let's see. Can you see that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we can't see what he just put down. He's got the power plant.
I just said it.
Okay.
Just to move it on.
Okay.
Pat Richmond, John, Pat Richmond.
Let's get that overhead projector back out.
Yeah.
That always works.
Get back to where it was. Yeah. Okay. All right. I do apologize for the delay. Right here is the parcel map. As you can see, it's mostly zoned TH in this area with a... Let's see, there's the proposal right around that area, 16th Avenue and Meridian. Okay, a little bit and what is that, from TH to C. Yeah. Here's another visual. Here's another visual of the site right there, Smythe, 16. Let's see. Yeah, another visual here with the outline. And as a result, as I said before, with this rezoning, 14-unit townhome subdivision. And here's some proposed elevations. You can see the front right in this area. You can see the back. And proposed floor plans with the main level, entry level down here, and the main, as well as the loft up there. So 3 stories in height. Wow. Like I said, townhome subdivision. Okay, here's some more visuals of what the site looks like. Visuals continue, just some other visuals looking across the site. And also, back in November, this case was on the board before Planning and Zoning Commission, and they voted unanimously with the following conditions of approval. As you can see, abundant landscaping for the perimeter of the subject parcel, especially for the north, south, and east sides. Landscaping shall include natural desert landscaping that represents the desert environment, and also requires minimal maintenance as well. Also, 24-inch box trees shall be planted along the north. Let's see, over here along the north, east, and south sides buffering the property. Okay, the retention basins on the site shall include in the northeast corner and also a plan enjoyment of the residents. Program shall include 6 PlayStation points, generally each individual activity point, or each individual activity equals a PlayStation point. For instance, like a swing set, depending on how many swings there are, it's like usually that's 3 PlayStation points. Also, a slide only equals 1. Also, the playground equipment manufacturer dictates the number of points as well. So it's up to the manufacturer, depending, if the applicant or the developer, it's pretty much at their discretion. Let's see, the shall include sidewalks or architectural features illustrating the city's design guidelines. They shall offer ground-mounted air conditioning units and architectural treatments for all 4 sides of the building, and also not to include blank facades, including pop-outs, roof lines, or color variations that, to add visual interest as well. That all those will be included. Oops. Let's see, in this case, moving on, additional parking for guests shall be included according to Ordinance 1218, a minimum of 1 guest parking, 1 guest parking space is required for each unit. Another condition, street improvements are not required along 16th Avenue, but the rights-of-way shall be observed, be partially landscaped and maintained by the HOA until such time as the city constructs the road, which we are currently working on and researching of, with other city staff, if that can be done. Street improvements with curb, gutter, sidewalk, and street lights are required along Meridian Drive. Mitigation measures for stormwater drainage will be described and implemented by engineering review during the plat submittal process. This townhome development shall be open to all families. And last but not least, we have a few other conditions here before we get to, let's see. Okay, last 3 conditions of approval. The height of these structures shall not exceed 30 feet. The setbacks from property line to the building shall not be less than 20 feet. The applicant shall disclose to prospective buyers that there is neighboring horse property nearby, because as you can see in those past visuals, there is some wide open land out there, and as well as some neighboring horse property up to the north. And this time I'd like to open up for questions or comments.
Your Honor.
Councilman.
Did they have to do any special planning in order to get it down to 30 feet, being a 3-story structure?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Severs, the proposed buildings are already expected to be 30 feet. The proposal already under the based on the on the plans that they submitted. So in terms of special planning, to the best of my knowledge, no.
Excellent.
Got it.
Vice Mayor.
I would just like to say that there's something happening in our community, and this is one of those neighborhoods down South Cedar there. I personally built a house down there as an investment and was one of the first ones, but this lot I know had 4 or 5 mobile homes on it, and Mr. Gaffer got rid of them, and now he's talking about building $300,000 to $350,000 condominiums in that area, and to me, it's just a fantastic project. It is, it's really a risk to ask a builder to build something this nice in an area like that. So I really appreciate the fact of what he's doing here, and I think it'd be an excellent project.
Yeah, I do have the Vice Mayor's comments. 3-bedroom, 3-bath.
They're not.
Any other questions? And will we see this at our next?
Mr. Mayor, yes, on February 6th.
Okay.
That's what we're proposing.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to item number 15, direction to staff regarding fiscal year 2007 Community Development Block Grant State Special Projects. Mr. Melinda is going to call on Roger.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Melinda Larson, City of Apache Junction Development Services. As you may recall, at the December 5th, 2006 public hearing, council directed staff to research the following projects for possible submission for the State Special Projects SSP grant fiscal year 2007. Streetlights in low-mod income, high-crime areas in the city, abatement of community flooding in a residential area, and new restroom at Prospector Park. The research on these projects is included in your packets. Just as a reminder, the SSP grant is a competitive grant. Based on the rating criteria, an application for the project, for a project that clearly demonstrates an urgent need will receive a higher score and have a better chance of being funded. Another area for scoring higher is the amount of money that the city is willing to provide as a match. At the council meeting on December 5th, Councilmember Dietz provided an example of how the city could commit additional funding for a project. This funding is also referred to as leveraged funds. Tonight, staff respectfully request the council review and discuss the project research. Following the review and discussion, staff respectfully requests council direction as to which project to prepare as a CDBG SSP fiscal year 2007 application. I'd be happy to answer questions at this time.
Questions?
I have one.
Vice Mayor?
Go ahead. Go ahead, I'll ask. Go ahead.
Councilman Dietz.
Melinda, I was just curious on the streetlight project. The grant amount's $300,000, and we're requesting $277,000. Wasn't there some way that we could increase, maybe put another block in there, another, and request 300 but match another 25,000 of the city's funds?
I might ask the Public Works Director to answer that question. Mr. Dobson and I met and spoke about this project, and he's trying to look at where we can put the lights on existing poles, existing SRP poles. There may be another area that we didn't discuss. Do you want to speak to that?
I was just thinking of the chance of us, if it's going to get us another point or two towards getting this grant accepted by going over the 300,000 and matching with 20,000 of city funds or 30,000 of city funds to give us a better shot at it. If there's any more, I know that it's a lot cheaper and a lot easier to put them on the existing poles than having SRP erect new poles and everything, so.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, what I was looking at was, excuse me, exactly that. It's, what do you have on the table now that you can assure me that we can get done in this length of time? So I went down to that area, looked at Cedar, Warner, 16th Avenue, 15th, I think, 14th, 12th. And I actually came up with probably 65% of the grant. So I was just, looking for something else to do, with that I could use that and make sure that I had something that a workable project. So I noticed on Broadway between Meridian and Delaware, you have power poles on both sides of the street. So I told Melinda, if that's the council's direction, if you'd be satisfied with having a street light attached to a power pole on a section line street, then we could use a grant to put them on the north side, and we'd come back in as part of our funding and put them on the south side, so you would have Broadway lit between Meridian and Delaware, both north and south side. You could actually up the amount to 300,000 and say we're going to do both sides of Broadway. If you didn't want to use a street light that was attached to a existing power pole, by the time I got the lights in on the residential area, we could probably have a design to where they could put a single light that's like on Meridian Road where you see it comes out like a, I say, E.T. come home type street light pole that lights the center of the street, which lights both sides. It would be more money, but it would be an update to the what we're asking to spend the money for anyway, and us kick in what the difference.
Yeah, I was just trying to get us to the point where we're going to be a little over that 300,000 and the city kick in a little bit just to get us those few extra points that they may award us.
I just didn't want to make a recommendation and it come back to where that I don't have it on the shelf and jeopardize the whole thing by not being able to complete what I say I could. That was the reason I suggested using the Broadway.
This is a 2-year period, is that right, Melinda?
Correct.
A
Mr.
2-year
Mayor,
period to
Councilmember
install
Deans,
these?
we have 24 months, once the contract is awarded,
Yeah.
to complete the project.
So is this doable, Doug?
If the direction would be to go ahead and do Broadway and do a one light, and I knew that was the direction you wanted to go, I wouldn't have a problem going ahead and doing design work on Broadway starting now, and just design the street lights for Broadway between Meridian and Delaware, and have that on the shelf, because in talking to Melinda, the award wouldn't be until August anyway, so that gives me 7 months just to get the design
Well,
work
here,
done.
they want direction this evening on which one to go with.
Right.
Of the 3 different options that we have. And if we go with the streetlight option that would like to, submit the grant for 330,000 or 340 or 320 or whatever the case may be, not one that's we're going to shelf for the next time around, but one to start preparing the application and everything for now.
Right, and if that was the direction you chose to go in, then I could go ahead and have a design done on Broadway between, like I said, between Meridian and Delaware with the intention of actually putting those streetlights in, whether the CBDG goes or not.
Doug, I would really like, I think any of them are great, they always are, But I would then like us to see about tabling and being prepared for like item 2, which is the Blevins, Mr. Blevins and the Twigs.
Or we can even go with this one. I was just curious.
No,
as far as,
I'm saying we
you
can
know,
table
the
this.
funds they
It's
asked for.
600, it's twice as much, but I don't know where would we be coming up with our CDBG next year or the SSP. But I would like to have some foresight and be prepared for that one maybe next year, because, you know, we haven't been able to do anything so far. Hopefully that's a possibility. We'd be ready for that and be going in that direction.
Vice Mayor, members of the council, after reviewing that particular project, and it's outlined exactly as we discussed it, after reviewing that with Arizona Department of Housing, based on the fact that it does not show a severe need, the project that Mr. Dobson and I spoke about would only affect 2 homes. That does not show a need, a community need. I'm letting you know what the Department of Housing.
Yeah, I know. I just find that a little shocking.
Based on this particular grant.
We know how severe it is for those 2 people. I understand that the numbers are low.
Correct.
So we're obviously going to have to find some other means soon, within the next year or so, in that direction. But then, see, I would like to have what the mayor said in the next one, item 3, and have it prepared and have it on the shelf. And if something comes up next year that's more of a necessity, then we go with it. But if not, we have something ready to go with the restrooms at Prospect Park. That's the way I'd like to go. Yeah, kind of have an idea.
Well, it'd be nice to have a few items
Yeah, 2
on the shelf. That
two or
would have a
3,
pretty good idea
you know.
of what we're looking at.
Yeah.
But we had done that with Cedar and with the
Well,
construction materials, and man, it's
Yeah,
shot up.
I don't know if this restroom's gonna be 300,000 next year, or 600,000, or what, you know, the cost might be, but, I'd like us to try to put something realistic on the shelf. It's at, 246, 54 for the project, and I'd like to put it on the shelf, and then go with the lighting one, and I don't know what we're going to do on our streets, but I see a need to help a couple citizens over there, because for me, I think that's a very severe problem. So that might have to bring it up on another agenda item and see, or on the overall, or possible phase 2 street funding, because I've been over there. Ray's called me plenty of times, seen a lot of water in the home. So.
Melinda, of attachment 1, the lights, and attachment 3, the restroom at Prospector Park, you have any feel for which one would more likely be accepted, or?
Attachment 1, excuse me.
The street
Mayor
lights?
Coleman. Yes, I did have extensive conversation with Department of Housing, and based on the new performance measures, that project looks like Roger could write a very nice application, and we can show, we must also collect data. I've spoken with Jenny Lewis, and the data would be relatively easy to collect based on the number of calls for service being reduced. So to answer your question, the attachment 1.
Okay. Okay, any other questions or comments? I'll call for a motion there.
Your Honor.
Councilman Waldron.
I move that the following direction be given to staff regarding fiscal year 2007 Community Development Block Grant State Special Project SSP, that we pursue the street lights in the low mod income high crime areas.
Second.
Moved and seconded, roll call.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Item 16, selection of meeting dates, times, locations.
Your Honor. I move that an executive session at 6 p.m. and a work session at 7 p.m. be held on Monday, February 5th, 2007, in the City Council Conference Room and City Council Chambers, respectively, and that an executive session at 6 p.m. be held on Tuesday, February 6th, 2007, in the City Council Conference Room.
Is there a second? Moved and seconded, roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. If there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and adjourn.
I know, but fine. I had Oh, do you have, did you get signs and some information? I got signs. That's above, I think that's above. I'm gonna put some neighbors that are James and
It's gonna happen. It's not what's happened to the gold, right? Yeah. Well, you looked at it. Probably. Well, all I saw was the little sidebar thing come on.
Yeah, all of a sudden the sidewalk is, well, this is where it's look it off the road. Was that? We just go in the shortcuts for, well, the first one was fun. Yeah, I look right out the front. Sometimes the things happen with the technology. When you're in the edit screen, you hit F5. It goes to your first. If you accidentally hit the right mouse button, hit H, and it'll hide it. Hold on, you see. So you can just find that. Oh, maybe it's the first step. Okay, it's not, you know what, it was really heavy. Interesting. F5 always gets you to the first one. My daughter, Kim, is running the girls' summers for the Capital Trust Beach. It's actually going to have that, I don't know, it's $8. We can hit save again. It did that before, wasn't it? No. But she has she has because she's doing that, they use access to the tracking program. She can see those as soon as it's lost. Backup printout. This is going to be, this one builds an interest to that. And usually the rest she must have called 3 times. This came on. And they were able to see Vice President I think, yes, so for the solar one, yeah, I guess he didn't understand. Yeah. Oh, and it just has a right now. Okay. Yeah, because we couldn't get that feedback. Because when you turn it, okay, I can turn it off or on, or this will do it. And the injector's off. Now, if I go to system on,